Hello, my sexy muffins, and welcome back to another video. Now, I know I'm a little bit late on this one, but it's the talking about mouthwashing and my views on it, and we're going to get a little bit intense. Disclaimer warning, there is mention of SA in this, not graphic-wise, but also just slightly mentioned because of what happened to Anna, and also uh, Jimmy not taking accountability for it. Now, let's do this. So, with that out of the way, the whole thing I think is from the very start, Jimmy didn't want to take accountability for various things. As long as Anya was working on the ship with him, he could keep her under his thumb and such. And honestly, I don't think that Jimmy hated Anya because she's just a woman. That's just too easy of a cop out for a complex character like Jimmy. And yes, he's very toxic, but yes, he is also complex. Now, I think he hated Anya because she had power over him. Like how he talked about in the psyche vows of being into Polly, the cartoon horse, and such. That it is very likely that he was using that as a way to to adult fun times it from what he did to her and have power over her by making her uncomfortable since he SA'd her. But also that he didn't just R word her specifically for just because he wanted to have adult fun time, but because he wanted to have power over her and take control over the situation because he is a narcissist. Now, Anya, even though she's not the best nurse and stuff, if she did a psyche eval that said he was not fit for duty, he would lose his job, which, as we know, he was a nobody on Earth and he actually has some power and control being a co captain of the ship. So it is very likely that Anya having this power over him, he just hated. And he didn't see her as a person. And he hated that she had this power, which is why he's so snappish with her. And also that he sees her as nothing and that her name tag isn't any of the other name tags for employees and stuff because he doesn't see her as an issue. Now, his relationships with the other ones are shown very, very well because of how he is. Now, the whole thing is basically wrapped around him, R word, and Anya, because when he learns he's going to lose his job, he will have no control over her, and he will have to face accountability. That's the whole thing. Take accountability, not for the crash, but for what he did to Anya because he most likely crashed the ship to not take accountability for the R word of Anya, especially when it comes out that she's pregnant, which we'll get to that in a sec. Anyways, so that's probably why he crashed the ship to not take accountability for his actions. And the company was going down anyway, so might as well give it all throw it all away. He wasn't focused on anyone but not taking accountability, which is shown later in the game when he pew pews himself. Because let's be honest, even if he got rescued in like 10 years of being frozen in the pod, they would still find the bodies of Anya and the other ones and figure out, holy heck, something bad happened here, and there's only one survivor. They must have done something. And also, they would have done autopsies on the body and realized that Anya was pregnant with Jimmy's kid. And then it would lead to possibly figuring out that he did all this and he caused the crash. It just would cause his life to fall apart and probably get life in prison. So, very likely that his whole thing at the end of the thing of pew pewing himself was to not take accountability. Now, let's get to his obsession with Curly. He does have an obsession with Curly, and I honestly think, in his own twisted way, he did care about Curly as a friend because narcissists can have friends. Narcissists aren't always terrible people. Psychopaths aren't always terrible people. They just lack the empathy or the capability to feel the good stuff. And that is very true with how Curly and Jimmy's relationship is. Curly is sees him as a friend, but Jimmy hates that Curly was in charge and that he was able to move on easier and that he would move on without Jimmy, losing control he had over Curly, the slight control he had over Curly, because he was able to manipulate Curly into thinking he was a good guy where Curly didn't do anything to Jimmy about Anya. All about control again. Losing Curly, he loses that control over Curly. And then and then he let's be honest, Anya was probably feeding Curly food and rations after he was off the IV treatments. But they were in space for 8 months, out of IV treatments, out of food. Curly was probably starving, which is probably why, in Jimmy's twisted mind, feeding him apart, warning label, consumption of flesh, but warning label and trigger warning. It's a dark game, but it's no one was actually here. No actual people eaten. Where he fed a part of his own leg, a part of Curly's legs to Curly, because he was making sure that Curly had food in his stomach before he put him into the cryopod so he would have best chance of survival. And he, yes, did this all because in his twisted, fricked up brain, he actually cared for Curly on some sick, twisted level. Yes, this is actually possible, and people who are narcissists can have friends, and psychopaths can have friends. They just don't have it in the same way. And Jimmy is obviously insane, and he's the bad part of narcissists and psychopaths. He's really the toxic one that is not okay. So, of course, that's why he did it in his twisted way of doing it. And that's with that. Now, his whole thing with Swansea and Dosky, he's manipulating them throughout the whole thing and all of that. Now, back to Anya because I got more points on her, but I had to get the Curly part before I forgot. So, Anya, the reason that she's not in the in thing where he's seeing the flowers, the baby, the fetus, and all that, this is where it gets a little bit darker. Know that Jimmy is an unreliable storyteller, obviously, and this is seen through his eyes. And also, Anya had a lot of red body fluids on her face, and that usually doesn't come from someone who has OD'd. You disclaimer, I'm okay, but who has tried to end my existence through medication. It is it is very rare that you would cough up the red stuff. Really skirting around the demonetizations. But, anyways, so it is likely that Jimmy, in an off screen thing, because he doesn't want to take accountability, and he's basically telling us, the player, the story from his point of view, that he assaulted Anya. Probably at this point, he knew she was pregnant because it's been 8 months and it's at least so she was probably due to give birth in a few weeks at the most. So it is a very, very likely that Jimmy knew she was pregnant at this point and didn't want to take accountability. And that's why in the thing when we're seeing the fetus go through the air vents and the flowers and everything about Swansea and stuff, that's his guilt. He sees the pregnancy that he caused as a mistake and something he needed to get rid of. Which goes back to, I think he beat up Anya, being angry and lashing out because now if the ship is found, they know that he got her pregnant. Also, the fact that there's technically no locks on the door. She probably just jammed it. And when Jimmy says that, is it locked? I believe, I can't remember exactly which part she hesitated, but she did hesitate where she didn't want to talk to him, which is she didn't want to answer if the door was locked, actually locked, because she felt unsafe and being assaulted and close to her due date for her pregnancy probably scared the heck out of her, and she didn't want to put a child in the harm ways of Jimmy. So she probably did that for herself and the child's safety. And that is terrifying. Terrifying. And Jimmy at this point clearly knew in his psych stuff knew that Anya was pregnant with his child. And that is why, and the things he sees it as something he has to exterminate and get rid of and all that. And that's why instead of seeing Anya, because he doesn't see Anya as a person, he sees her as less than, but he sees the pregnancy as something and the baby as something that is in the way of his life, and that is something. And when it keeps saying take accountability with it, it was take accountability for Dosky, it was take accountability for Swansea, it was take accountability for Curly, it was take accountability for the pregnancy, aka the R word that he did to Anya. And he did all this because he was a selfish P P-R-I, you know what I'm saying. Anyways, a selfish pickle, a selfish pickle that only cared about himself. All in all, this is a great storytelling because it took the view of the storytelling from someone who sees themselves as the hero but was actually the bad guy the whole time, and also that he's mentally ill and hallucinating. So his story is very much skewed part of someone who would be having a psychotic break. And they do the storytelling of it so well. The small hints of that, because when Anya said to Curly, "You know, I already told you." I think it was I told you. She told her Curly about his friend Jimmy R word in her, and Curly did nothing. And that's what caused this whole situation. Curly is not justified in this at all either, because he still let this continue instead of taking Jimmy into responsibility for what he did. And that's what caused it. It is great storytelling. Honestly, a real fresh air to the game industry, I think. The only thing I was sad about, because I was watching Jacksepticeye's Let's Play of it, because I didn't play it myself because I can't afford it. But anyways, I watched the Let's Play, and it was just a little uncomfortable as someone who's been SA'd multiple times from young age to adulthood, that Jack was making jokes. I know he didn't understand it, but if you look at female gamers who reacted to that scene of Anya saying that, they realized what happened, while males don't realize it. And I understand if you're not in the situation where you can be R worded, or you're less likely to be R worded, that you won't pick up on it. But oh my god, is that strong storytelling? And I just wish that it was revealed so I could have gotten, so that people would have known what really happened instead of figuring out afterwards, so that they didn't make as many jokes. I'm not saying Jacksepticeye's bad for it. He didn't know. He was just taking on what he knew. But it just felt a little uncomfortable as someone who's been a victim of that. I don't blame Jacksepticeye at all. He's a great YouTuber and a great man and a great person who does a lot of charity. And I respect him on a great value, and he's one of my comfort YouTubers. It just felt uncomfortable from my years of being essayed. Anyways, I hope that you all enjoyed this. I know it was longer than you wanted me to do it, but I thought that it would be better this way. Anyways, I hope that you all enjoyed this. If you would like to see more, comment below what you would like to see, and I will do my best to do it. I'm also thinking of doing reviews of Ghost Frickers and Mastermind for Hell of a Boss, and when I watch the shorts, possibly reviews on that. And I want to do a review on Wolverine and Deadpool movie. I already watched it. And once it came to Disney Plus, I know I am really behind on the review. I forgot to do it. I apologize. Anyways, I hope that you all enjoyed this. And now, Patreon outro. Patreon outro. Thank you, Gav, for being my first patron. You are wonderful, beautiful, stunning, gorgeous. Thank you, Gav. I appreciate you. And I hope that you all enjoyed this. And I hope that you all have a great holiday season and the bonus stuff that I'm doing as well. Stay sexy, all my sexy muffins. Bye bye. Secret outro time. Secret outro time. Secret outro time. Secret outro. Secret outro. Secret outro. Baseball bat. Welcome to the secret outro. And the secret outro of the question of the day is: did you like mouthwashing as a game? And did you pick up on that Anya was R-worded when she said it? Or were you clueless until the after effect? Or were you even clueless until this video? Comment below. And I admit I was a little bit clueless until my partner pointed out, because we were watching at the same time over Discord. And then I was like, oh yeah, shoot. I didn't pick up on it because I'm an oblivious brick. But after she said it, it clicked like, oh my God. And we started theorizing and all that stuff. Anyways, I hope that you all enjoyed and stay sexy on my sexy muffins. Bye bye.